Welcome to Hitchin Hackspace's laser cutter training video. This video covers the full process of going from a digital design to a laser cut part. You can start your digital design in any software that can produce a vector output, whether that's Microsoft Office, 2D drafting such as Inkscape, or 3D design such as Fusion 360 or SolidWorks. The important thing is that the file format can be converted to SVG or DXF. That design will include lines where you want the laser to cut or mark and enclosed areas where you want it to be engraved. Obviously there's a lot to designing items to be made, and I can't cover all of the design for manufacture issues here, but a couple of key points to consider. One is that laser cut materials are rarely the nominal thickness, so if you're intending something to tab and slot together, the thickness of the material is important. Measure the actual piece of material you're going to use before you finish the design, because 3mm material may be as small as 2.5 or as fat as 3.5mm, which can ruin the assembly. If your design requires a particular level of precision, bear in mind that the laser cutter will follow your lines, cutting on the line, not on the outside of the line, so the thickness of the cut, or the kerf, needs to be considered. It's typically in the range of 0.1 to 0.3 millimeters wide, so it generally can be ignored, but for precision it needs to be accounted for, and if necessary, tested and the design tuned to accommodate the actual kerf. So with the design created, the next thing we need to do is get that design into the laser cutter software and pick our cut parameters and program the machine. We do this using RDworks, generally on the PC that's next to the laser cutter. There's a whole separate video that covers the detail of that process, but I'll cover it at a high level here. The laser cutter PC is normally left switched on. It's just gone into sleep mode, so all it takes is turn the mouse on and give it a wiggle and it should wake up. If it doesn't, first thing to try is check the monitor's turned on, and if not, press the power button on the front of the PC. If it still doesn't wake up, chase the power cabling and turn it on at the plug, but it is usually left turned on at the plug. The PC is on the local network at the Hackspace, but it's often easier to transfer your file using a USB stick. There's typically one left lying around near the machine or plugged in. The easiest USB socket to get to is on the side of the monitor. So now you've got the file to the PC, open up RDworks and import your design. Then select the lines you want to have different cut parameters, put them on different layers and assign those cut parameters. So with the design ready to send to the laser cutter, we need to turn it on. But before we turn it on, there's a few checks we need to do. So check that there's nothing been left inside the laser cutter, nothing that's going to block the head. Check that the power cable is in good condition. Check the inside's clean, and then you can turn it on at the switch. The laser cutter will go through a boot up sequence. The chiller will give its alarm while it settles down, and then you're ready to download your design from RDworks to the laser. Once the file is downloaded, go to the File menu on the laser cutter and open up your design. Remember, as part of opening the design, you can check the cut time. Now is the time to bring your work into the laser cutter. So you can open the lid and position your work on the bed. It needs to sit flat. Choose the best bed type as covered in the theory video for the type of work you're cutting. Before establishing the origin, it's important to set the focus of the head, as that can move the red laser dot. So use the focus jig, raise or lower the bed to set the focus correctly, and then use the arrow keys to position the head where you want the origin to be, and press the origin button. As part of positioning the work and setting the origin, it's important to consider any over travel of your cut. So if there's an engraving cut, remember the head will move further than the cut itself, so make sure room is allowed either side for that travel. It's a good idea at this point to press frame and get the laser cutter to outline the rectangular envelope of the design to check it fits on your material where you expect and you have the travel required. With the design loaded, the material set up and the origin set, we can run the design. So close the lid, press run. Remember to closely watch the whole of the cut, looking out for fire or material movement that may jam the head, pausing or stopping the job as required. When the cut's finished, leave it a few seconds before opening the lid to allow the smoke to be extracted. Before removing your work from the laser cutter, it's worth very carefully checking if it has cut all the way through and done the full design you expect, as soon as you've moved the material, it will be very difficult to recut anything aligned with the previous cuts. If you need to, you can run the job again or change the design and run part of the job again as required. If you're happy with the cut, remove the material, remove any small offcuts that might have fallen through as part of the cutting process, and then it's time to clean the machine. So to do this, remove both beds from the machine, find the laser cutter scouring pad and use a detergent to wipe down any surfaces that have built up a residue. We'll demonstrate the proper way to do this as part of the hands-on session. Once they're clean and there's no more residue left to remove, dry them off with the blue towel, close the lid and turn the power off to the laser cutter. And you're done.